We have a quorum, so that's good. Good evening. It's 5 p.m. We're going to call this meeting of the joint session of the EDC and the council to order to discuss, consider, and appropriate take action with respect to the items listed below. But first, if you'll stand with me and we'll do the pledge, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. On the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, one God, one indivisible.
We do public comments, right? Terry, you want to call your meeting to order?
Yes. Call the meeting to order for the EDC. We have a quorum present. The mayor and Summer being part of that quorum tonight. Thank you.
Rachel's going to check and see if we have anybody signed up for public comments. Oh, Jared's joining us. Okay. Give us just a second. Thank you. Okay, we have two signed up. So public comments, item one, public comments and announcements. At this time, we would like to listen to any member of the audience on any subject matter, whether or not that item is on the agenda. All comments are limited to a maximum of 4 minutes for each speaker. Shall be limited to city business or city-related business or matters of general public interest, and shall not include any personal attacks or abusive language. All public remarks shall be addressed to the chair representing the council and the board. Comments shall not be directed toward an individual council member, city staff, or other members of the public. In accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, members may not discuss or take action on any item that has not been posted on the agenda. When your name is called, please come to the podium here in the center. State your name and address clearly into the microphone before making your comments. And we're checking the microphone. Okay, thank you. First person is Aaron McGuire. Good evening.
Evening. Is there a button here I'm supposed to push? You're on. Oh, I'm on. Okay. My name is Aaron McGuire. I live at 1818 Wallington Lane, Seabrook. Been here 23 years. I'm here to talk about the Seabrook Pier. And this pier that we have provides a place for people in our town and surrounding areas to fish and enjoy the waterfront in our town. The pier does bring revenue to the town, only about half as much now as before the hurricanes hit. The pier will bring in others to our seaside community, not just to fish, but to support other businesses in town. It could also provide growth, like bait shops and other business related to fishing. As you remember, we lost a sporting goods store thanks to the expansion of 146. This brings me to another point. It's my understanding that we have an 8C grant for demolition of that pier. There is or was a TPW grant because the deadline was missed. The city manager didn't apply because she said the council couldn't decide on our portion of funding. But I did think back in March, they did pass this. So I'm just curious why nothing was done. And I just feel like this was done on purpose. And as I know, several members don't want it. So thank you.
Okay, we have one more. Thank you, sir. I'm sorry. Jackie Rasco.
Good evening. My name is Jackie Rasco. I'm a 14-year resident of Seabrook. Oh, I just put this. I emailed you guys a few days ago, but I wanted to come here in person and discuss this with you. My request is to please video record and live stream the committee meetings. The previous council almost approved this in August of 2024, which was a year ago, and but the budget hadn't been finalized at that point. And we tabled the motion, and unfortunately, it never came back to council. We have all of the audio video equipment in this room already installed. It's just a matter of increasing the cost of the service provider. I believe this is a modest investment for full transparency and citizens' trust. I'd also like to ask for you to reconsider the dissolvement of the Hotel Occupancy Tax Committee and to appoint the same members back with better direction and precise formality of the meetings. The action taken far exceeded the scope in the public notice, and I strongly believe this was a violation of the Texas Open Meetings Act. I'm asking you to correct the action and earn the residents' trust, showing them that you can make mistakes, but you can also do the right thing by correcting that. Speaking of, I'm glad you're correcting the action taken that violated the city charter last meeting for the appointment of the Economic Development Committee member due to the residency requirement. And I hope that you choose the most qualified applicant. The city is counting on you. Anyways, that's all I really had to say. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I think that was it for our public comments. We'll go on to item 2, which is declaration of a quorum by each chair and call meeting to order. We do have a quorum of council, and I am calling this meeting to order. Mr. Chairman?
Yes, please, call the meeting to order, yes.
And that is 5:06. Thank you.
5:06.
Yes, sir. Okay, we're now entering, let's see, where are we at here? Workshop session. Item 3, this is a combined SEDC and City Council workshop session. Item 3.1, presentation and discussion on schematic designs of the former wastewater treatment plant site for the proposed Bayside Park space expansion and Main Street streetscape improvements. Kimley Horn and Associates and the Bayside Park Stakeholder Group will take this. Check that your microphone is on, please.
Try not to drop everything here. All right, how about now? Thank you guys. I appreciate you having us here tonight. My name's Christina Malik. I'm with Kimley Horn. We're a design consultant that has had the honor of working with the city of Seabrook and the stakeholder group, which many of you I see here tonight. So thank you guys for showing up. Joining me tonight are my colleagues here. We've all had the pleasure of really getting to know your community and helping to envision the future of Bayside Park. So as you mentioned, this is the site of the former wastewater treatment plant that's going to be decommissioned. So there's an opportunity here to reestablish it as a park. And so we work closely with a stakeholder group that was appointed by the city staff, and it's a cross-section of folks that represent EDC, council, business owners, residents, and Galveston Bay Foundation. So we had a really good cross-section and representation of your community that helped guide this process. So just really wanted to thank everybody again that was involved in that process and appreciate the guidance and insights that you helped give us in order to really help create a vision that represents what you want at the park. So with that, I'll go ahead and get started. So the quick overview of what we'll be presenting tonight starts with a recap of how we got to where we are today. We'll do some review of the feedback that we received from the stakeholders that help guide our design process. We'll start by presenting the park site itself and then pause to discuss, answer any questions, and go over the park alone. And then we'll move on to the adjacent streetscape, present that in segments, and then have a time for question and comment. And then we'll wrap up with next steps. So where do we go from here? So this process started with just some data collection, some site visits, and trying to understand what the opportunities and constraints are at the site. We met with the stakeholders first back in February, where we reviewed that site analysis, presented the opportunities and constraints as we saw them, but then we also learned a lot about the opportunities and constraints as the stakeholders saw them too. And that really helped to inform our design vision for the project. We also went over some of the regulatory and permitting limitations. And as a result of that first meeting, we went to the drawing table and took a look at how we would envision a future restroom, for example. So at first we thought we were gonna try to renovate the existing wastewater treatment office and quickly found that that would be cost prohibitive. So we put that aside and moved on to other options. one of which include looking at a floating restroom facility initially, and later evolved to a mobile facility. So we'll show what that evolution looked like. We use that information that we gained from that first meeting to prepare two options. These are two totally different options that we presented to the stakeholders to get feedback, get reactions. We like this, we don't like this. And from there, we created a consolidated vision of what they had shared with us, presented that based on a desire to see the site raised up to a higher elevation to help with some resiliency aspects of the park. And then from there, we went back to the office and created some finished deliverables that we'll be sharing with you all tonight. So I know it sounds like a lot. It's been a several month-long process, but I think it was really important to have the ongoing dialogue. I think we met 3 times with the stakeholder group, and it really helped guide the vision. So I will do my best to summarize all of that work here tonight for you guys. So first, we'll start with the park site. So what we did is, after the first presentation of the 2 options, we took some just general consensus from the stakeholders. And this is a photograph of that flip chart we took at the meeting. And the feedback we heard from the group was they wanted the park to really be nature focused and have a basis in nature education. They also wanted it to be coastal themed and have small nature play features, not a playground per se, but things that kids could play on and were nature-based. There was a strong desire to have the park raised up to a higher elevation to help with resiliency, just understanding that in a storm event that this park is basically a bowl. And so how do we raise it up and protect those investments so that they can withstand some of the infrastructure, some of the storm aspects on the site. They also expressed an interest for a small event space. Think 50 people or less, acoustic, a teacher teaching a small class, or a theater performance. Nothing too loud or large. They wanted to keep parking out of the park, so they dedicate all that space towards park amenities, and emphasizing that any structures on site need to be resilient. And this is where the mobile restroom was born. I know there's a lot of discussion ongoing about that within the city, but this is the desire of the stakeholder group initially, so we've captured that in our concept today, and it can continue to evolve as council and community sees fit. We also included some imagery that the stakeholder group shared with us that captured their vision for what the aesthetics of the project could look like, and things like coastal light fixtures and wood textures, and how to address the elevation change with grand staircases and things like that. So I think it helps to understand the elevation of the existing site. So what you see here is the wastewater treatment plant as it stands today, and a cross-section at the lower part of the screen. So what you'll see is Main Street sits up at elevation 8-ish, and then there's a berm that goes around the perimeter of the wastewater treatment plant in a U shape and sits at elevation 11. So the entire existing structures sit in a bowl, if you will, at the bottom at a lower elevation. So the feedback from the community, as echoed a couple of times, is that wanted to raise that up. So this is the evolution of all the concepts that we've worked through with the stakeholder group. So I'll just walk you through the site one by one. What you'll first see is that the site is raised up to elevation 12. The cross-section at the bottom shows that diagonal hatched area above the dashed red line would be filled, so that all the main improvements and infrastructure of the park are raised up to that higher elevation of the berm. And then it slowly tapers down to the water level with a coastal prairie in that area to help reinforce the bank and really stabilize that slope. So from the streetscape at the top along Main Street, there's a grand entry that brings you up a case of stairs to a plaza area. And off to the right, you'll see there's a sail pavilion. And this is the area we thought could serve multi-purposes. So It could be a stage for acoustical performance. It could be shade for some picnic tables. It could be a teacher standing up teaching a class of students sitting down at the open play lawn. And so it's elevated just slightly to kind of get that perspective and allow for any type of event that you would want to host out there. Off to the left, there's a play lawn. This is an open space that people could gather, could picnic. It's really dual purpose as well. And then to the left of that is the nature play area. So again, these are play features that really emphasize nature education and connecting with nature, not like a playground or a typical play feature you would see, at a different park site. This is the desire of this park is to really be focused on nature. Off of that area, there's a series of meandering paths that traverse down the slope. And these go through a coastal prairie planted area. So really, again, focusing on how do we restore nature to this site. Maybe there's educational signage, different types of planting. It really is an opportunity to showcase what you can do in a native restorative habitat. We also proposed enhanced vegetated shorelines, so within the water, doing kind of the same effect. So having some demonstration gardens. It's our understanding that there's funding and grants available for these. So there was a lot of interest from Galveston Bay Foundation and areas they've seen in other local cities that have done similar plantings. So we were really inspired by that idea. All right, so then moving back towards the streetscape, you'll see that there is a lift station there. That's the existing lift station. So we know that that will have to remain at the park site and sits at a lower elevation. And so knowing that it's unsightly, we propose putting some concrete walls around it with murals so that you hide it and conceal what's back there. But also, how do we create this as an amenity? Maybe it becomes some type of branding or signage or selfie destination. We have some images to show you what that could become. And then to the left of that, you'll see there's a grass paved drive that leads to the mobile restroom. So we envision this as a mobile restroom. So think like one you might see at the rodeo that is an elevated style that could be on a trailer and easily moved out in a storm event. But otherwise, it would sit within a stall. So tried to conceal the perimeter of it so that you don't really notice that it's a trailer, and it kind of creates like an apron around the perimeter of it. And since it's elevated, it would require some ramps to be able to access it for accessibility. So that's what we've shown here. And as I mentioned, this can continue to evolve as the community's desires and ordinances address that. All right, so did I miss anything? All right, I have to check with the team, make sure. So moving on, I just wanted to share some perspective imagery. I think this really makes it start to come to life. So here you're standing at that upper plaza, looking over towards the sail pavilion. You got the large open lawn for people to picnic and gather, and to the right, the nature play area kind of off the screen. But you'll see they've got really nice views out to the water, and you'll be able to see the 146 bridge from there. So I think it really captures the vision of what the park is, which is a really special connection to the water. And this is an image of what that screening of the lift station could look like. So we've shown it as a concrete wall that has some signage on it. But then we've also included these abstract versions of a sail, which help to conceal that elevated tower that is a part of the lift station. So, acknowledging that it's there, but kind of distracting the eye with a nice way to, decorate the front of that wall, but also create a sense of place with some theming and branding. All right, so again, I wanted to emphasize that this is a really high-level overview of what the vision of the project could look like. We're at schematic design, which is the very beginning of when you start to envision what a project could be. So a lot of unknowns out there, a lot of variables that we haven't quite figured out, but we thought it would be helpful to prepare a rough order of magnitude of what this could cost. So we've broken that down into different buckets. And you'll see here, we've got, just general items. We've got the mobile restroom, the lift station, enclosure, and art. So this could easily be pieced together if there was a phased approach that we wanted to take in order to see this project forward. Also, we could look at value engineering. So as we start to look at materials, how can we scale back and do things in a really affordable way? So there's ways to approach this to keep this evolving within the budget parameters that you guys have available. We've also included a 24-month escalation, just assuming the project doesn't move forward right away. Inflation will continue to occur, so we wanted to help you all plan for that. And then I did want to note that the rough grading of the site is not included in this cost. That's assuming that as part of the demolition of the wastewater treatment plant, they would grade the site in a way to set it back to ground zero, if you will. All right, so I'd like to pause there. I know that was a lot of information, so would love to open it up to any questions or comments and just be available to answer those.
Okay, I have a question. So how big are we projecting those bathrooms to be for $250,000? I'm just trying to gauge that because I just don't, that sounds like a lot. But I'm ignorant on this whole thing, so.
We reached out to a mobile restroom vendor and asked for a quote for a 2-stall each trailer. So we have 2 men, 2
stalls. Okay. So 4 bathrooms.
Yeah, so
And then the
that could be
surrounding
something
area.
that we continue to evolve to
Sure.
as we.
I was just curious what was in the estimate, just to kind of gauge.
Yeah.
I don't know why that was a question for me, but I was just curious.
Well, we know restrooms are very important in terms of like being able to host events and knowing that there's visitors there and like how do we accommodate that. So I think that idea will continue to evolve, but we wanted to make sure that we addressed it in a way that seemed feasible.
One thing that influenced where we put it on the site is as you were looking at the plan, closer to downtown, which makes it closer to people fishing along Main Street. And so we included a walk up to that. So it serves not only the park, but people fishing day to day.
Are those restrooms ADA compliant?
Yes, so with the ramp, that's what allows it to become ADA compliant. And then the restroom itself would need to be sized appropriately to allow for that accessibility.
The enhanced vegetated shoreline, do you relate that to a living shoreline, which is a little bit different in concept than what you're saying here, but is that what you're talking about? Living shoreline would be more shells and a lot of shore grasses that are native to our area.
Yeah, and I don't think we've gone through the level of detail to understand what the exact plantings are or like how that detail would come into evolution.
There are many resources for that.
Yes.
Yes, there are many resources. I hope that you'll look into it. Other than that, looks great. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, we understood that there was funding available for shoreline planting, and so we wanted to make sure that we took advantage of that, and we really loved the aesthetic that it brought to the community as far as returning it to nature and the educational aspects that come along with it.
Just for your edification, Tom, that part of the stakeholders was the Galveston Bay Estuary and Galveston Bay Foundation. So they're actively involved in this, especially removing the invasive plants and replacing them with natural plants. And that would include the shoreline stuff too.
Great.
So a big point of our conversation, it seems always, is about restrooms. And so has there been discussion with Sean in regard to like regulations and, FEMA and all that fun stuff that we love talking about?
Yes. So what I understand is that's an ongoing conversation, and I can definitely call Sean up here to speak to that. As far as what the stakeholder group had determined, we agreed as a group to move forward with a mobile restroom, but I understand that that's something that we'll need to continue to have ordinances evolve with it if we wanted to proceed with that route.
I do love the design. It's beautiful. I just had to ask.
Good.
Sure.
there are a variety of possible solutions for restrooms. What seemed to be the most important thing to the stakeholders was to have resilience in the park. And so, I'll confess, we came initially with a permanent pavilion and permanent restrooms, and we realized pretty quickly that we maybe didn't completely understand the force that you can have from storms here. And so they really stressed that we need resilience, and a mobile restroom, even though there are ordinance issues and things, that was a strategy that physically could be well considered here.
But you could put a garage-type facility in to pull the mobile restrooms in.
I think that's.
Yes, and
Is that what you're saying?
we just, what we, it's a little hard to see with a small plan, but we called it kind of a corral that would be built perhaps similar to the walls around the lift station. Whoops, just lost our image. That would be an attractive surround for this, and when the mobile restroom was there, you would, from a distance, you would see these corrals, and they would be painted and screened with trees and so forth.
Okay, thank you.
Would that be grass? So I see on where the mobile restroom is, where you would like be able to move it away. Would that material be like grass or be some sort of like gravel or something to kind of like, because my fear was like if we have to move it, leaving, putting damage in there. But what do y'all know what type of material yet would be on the ground around the restroom?
So we haven't gotten into like the material selection yet, but I think a product like grass pave, which allows it to have the structure but also have grass as the surface, would be appropriate. It could be gravel. I mean, there's a lot of options, but it would definitely need to be something that could easily have a truck on and be able to move out, especially in like a wet condition.
I got a quick question on the sail pavilion. For the usage of that particular spot, are there any concepts or any need to install any type of like electrical line or AV audio equipment? Has that been discussed at all in order to support kind of the usage that's planned for that area?
Jim, we included electrical. In the cost estimate, we did include electrical service. So anticipating you might need an outlet or something like that to be able to plug something in. Again, this is intended for small acoustical events, so it's not planned for like loud speakers and lights and all that. One thing I didn't mention, and I'm catching myself now, is that shade pavilion. We anticipated that to be a very resilient structure as well. So designing it with fabric so that it could be taken down or easily replaced in a storm event was key factor in our design.
Thank you.
And regarding electrical, and you mentioned AV, when we've worked in flood reservoirs or places like that in Houston, obviously not necessarily the wind, but electrical is frequently elevated above a certain height, and so it might be something that staff accesses on a ladder or something, and so that obviously comes into play. In my experience, for something like this at this park, electrical would be about all you do, along with some security lighting, that any AV would be temporary and brought in for a special event.
Gotcha. Thank you.
So I see a lot of beautiful plants. Is there any plans for irrigation, or is this native landscaping, I would hope, with like minimal amount of irrigation needed, or did y'all get into that part?
We haven't gotten into plant selection, but there was a lot of discussion about restoring landscaping and having coastal prairie, which lends itself to natives. So if you have the natives, you definitely would need to water to establish, but then I think that irrigation would not be required.
Okay, so is there irrigation built into these plans at all or into the cost?
You did?
Sorry. What we did, we worked on advising on the establishment of the native prairie at the Memorial Park Land Bridge. And there is not permanent irrigation, but in some areas they put out irrigation lines on the surface, and they were planned to remain in place for a couple of years. And so like Christina said, you help establish it, and then it's the survival of the fittest after that.
Thank you.
Go
Did you have something?
ahead, no.
When it comes to the edge of the shoreline, I know that if we plant the right vegetation, it'll help with some of the erosion. Is there any, this might be a question for you. Have we looked at what type of plants could be around there to cut down on the erosion around the edges of this park?
You're gonna have either some kind of
Riprap is,
Is that on here?
yeah.
Yep, okay, thanks. That's what I was wondering.
Go ahead, Jane. Do you have something else?
I got a question. So on the safety aspect of it, is there any on the borders of it, any ropes, anything like that to kind of prevent people from falling into the water?
Yes, I think that's a great point. And so we wanted to really make sure that all of these paths are ADA accessible. And so as a aspect of that, it needs to be able to have landing areas and railings that are appropriate at drop off. So we would definitely make sure that that is part of the future iterations.
If we plant enough of the grasses further enough out, there'll be less opportunities for people to walk into the water, so.
As like a natural buffer.
And one other point, I still wasn't real clear about the surface that the restrooms will be on, you said is going to be what?
That was the pull-out.
So I imagine there's a concrete pad where the trailer
Could we
itself.
change that to a permeable type of material rather than concrete, which would go with the theme of eco-friendlier type
Certainly,
of
yes.
material?
Yeah,
Okay, so I hope we'll take a look at that.
that'll be in the future iterations as we get into more detailed design, start to selecting
There
material.
are many systems out there that'll work great for this.
Any other questions from council or EDC? Would any of the members of the stakeholder group like to make a comment?
I had another
Oh,
question.
yes, go ahead.
So I saw on one of the pictures on the screen that you spoke about parking, and then y'all have the street conceptualized as a one-way street. Is that something that the stakeholder group kind of recommended or spoke about?
Yes, and I can get into that in more detail.
Is that the next section?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's the next section. So I think it'll start to unveil itself.
Welcome. No, I'm just kidding.
Everybody good? Okay, thank you.
All right, so now moving on to the Main Street. So we kept these two separate because they're really two different ideas, but they're so intertwined as far as the park faces Main Street. And we also saw Main Street as an opportunity to expand on the recreation areas that are already happening out there, and really set the vision for this streetscape as a waterfront recreation area that is safe and really welcoming and really continues to connect people with the waterfront. I think you guys have a really unique opportunity here where you can park and immediately be next to the water that is just so special, and we wanted to really keep that as a core part of this. We also think that this could really set the vision for the future of Main Street. So a lot of these components can be echoed out through the remainder of Main Street if you guys decide to move forward with future improvements at other segments of the roadway. And then I also really wanted to stress that all of the roadway improvements we're showing here are within the existing footprint of the road. So we're not adding any paving. It's more striping and cutting paving away in order to create opportunities for different types of parking and traffic calming. So similar to the park, we talked with the stakeholder group about what was important to them after reviewing a couple of different ideas. And the takeaways that we heard were they want clumps of trees, so landscaping along the streetscape. They wanted additional parking, so looking at 90-degree rather than parallel or angled parking. New lighting, a crosswalk at the park for safe access. Looking at a variation of the roadway alignment. And then to allow for different parking options, having a walk on both sides of the road in order to allow pedestrian access on both sides, and small shade structures and keeping overhead electrics, because the takeaway we heard is it's very costly to move electric underground, and so the priority was let's focus on the amenities. So with that, we developed the streetscape area that basically goes from generally the Merlion area to Toddville in front of the Bayside Park. We broke it into 3 different segments, the north, the central, the south, just so we could zoom in a little closer here on the next slide. But what you'll see, well, starting with the north area, that's the park closest to the Veterans Memorial. We've increased access to the Veterans Memorial by expanding the parking there. So shifting the lanes, they're two-way. And so you asked the question about one-way or two-way. It's two-way traffic. But shifting those lanes towards the bottom end of the viewport here in order to allow space for head-in parking, extra parking there at the memorial. We understood there's events and things like that that have greater demand for parking there. We also added shade, and so that's where the little white squares are along. You'll see either side of the road in order to allow for picnics under shade or fishermen to take a little rest in the shade. And then maintaining the existing bulkhead walks to allow fishermen to have access on that lower end, and then a separate pedestrian area closer to the roadway parking stalls. So really trying to create like a separation between those 2 different uses and avoid some of the conflicts with fishing lines and things like that. So then moving on to the central area, this is just a continuation of what you saw on the north. But now you'll see that the roadway is transitioned to the middle. So now there's parallel parking on both sides. You'll see the clumps of trees that break up that parallel parking area. We call those bump outs, but basically it's an area that allows for planting of palm trees, but also serves as traffic calming because it starts to narrow up the roadway width from that we'll call it 4 lane down to 2 lane. And so it has a natural calming effect, helps keep pedestrians safer and people getting out of their cars a little safer too. And it has a nice aesthetic effect. Let's see. You also see a continuation of those shade structures and the existing kayak launch is still there. Then moving on to the south area, this is right in front of the park site. So you start to see the park on the lower half of the screen. We've created a crosswalk there right at the park, so it's easy for people to get across the road and access the park from either side. You'll see the roadway has transitioned to the upper half, so that allows for head-in parking right at the park where there's increased demand. There's access for the mobile trailer to get in and out easily. We could stripe off those stalls, that way they could pull in and out without being inhibited. There's also access for the lift station so that they can get in and maintain and take care of that easily. We've included a upper plaza area. You'll see that to the right of the park. And that just allows opportunity to overlook some of the wetland planting and has a small staircase just down to get access and help with maintenance of that planting with some furniture to appreciate and be able to enjoy those views. And then the roadway transitions back to the center before it gets to Toddville. We've widened it to 3 lanes in order to allow for that left or right-hand turn onto Toddville. But what you'll see is just a continuation of the same components. So generally the widened sidewalks with the enhanced paving, bump outs with the palm trees, street lighting that can be continued on throughout the Main Street area and really start to create a sense of place within this community and connecting the park with Old Seabrook. So this is just a quick rendering to show kind of the vision of what the streetscape could look like in person. You'll see the resilient shade structure that could, similar to the sail shade, could break away or be taken down in a storm. You've got the bump outs with the palm trees that are along the parallel parking, opportunities for people to picnic and sit and enjoy the waterfront, the nautical light fixtures with banners to really help with that placemaking and sense of coastal community. But it really it takes the same functional aspects of what you have out there now and really elevates it to a new, improved aesthetic. So then similarly, we looked at it rough order of magnitude cost. Again, this is very high level, so a lot of this can continue to flex and be phased as we get into more detailed design, but wanted to give you guys an idea of what this segment of the streetscape could cost in general. So all in, looking at about 1.8 million if we decided to move forward within 24 months, including some escalation for inflation. So then we'll just open it up to questions and comments.
Just a quick question. I know it's just a concept map, but can you pull out the close-up of the south area for me?
Sure.
So before you hit Toddville, there's a couple of paired palm trees there where I think there's a driveway. Is that, help me remember, is that still there?
Oh, on the north side, I see, yeah. I think that was just a miss.
Okay. All right, no problem, sorry.
We don't intend to lose the driveway.
Just curious, thank you. I didn't want to be the one to
We
tell
don't want to
them.
upset any neighbors.
That's really embarrassing to see those things for the first time in front of the city council.
Sorry about that.
You look at it so many times, you think you catch it all.
This is a brilliant way to slow down the traffic on Main Street, to make it safer for pedestrians and to kind of transition from one to the other. I like it.
One other consideration that we discussed in the stakeholders meeting is that the parking, the final design for it would be reactive in terms of what the traffic flow would be. So if there's a lot of cars, it would be designed to handle a lot of cars. If there are very few cars, it would be designed for that. So that would be the last part of the equation to take a look at.
Anyone else? You guys are good? Anyone in the stakeholders group want to make a comment, or you guys good with everything?
Words of support?
Do you like it?
I'm looking at Ann.
Is it on? Is it on? Yeah. First, I was going to go back to the park concept. We spent a ton of time on the bathrooms also. So you need to know the stakeholders. We spent a lot of time, and we had a lot of discussion with city staff as well as our consultants. So we had a lot of divergence of opinion, and I think everybody in our last meeting was really happy with the final design because it addressed a lot of our concerns. So y'all have done a great job. And the same thing on the streetscape. We had two pretty different options, and this has done a great job of mirroring what we wanted out of each one. So as part of the stakeholders group, I'm just very happy to endorse this and recommend it to City Council and to my fellow ADC.
Anyone else? I want to thank the stakeholders for the time that you put into this, and the staff, and also Kimley Horn for, I heard from some of the stakeholders coming back and really listening to what was said and coming back with a really brilliant idea. So thank you all very much.
Thank you. We've really enjoyed getting to know everyone, especially the stakeholders that we spent a lot of hours with, and really appreciate their intentional feedback that they helped give us, because we really wanted to capture your vision for the project, and they helped us get there.
Thank you. I think that concludes this portion of the presentation.
Got one more slide if you'll let me.
Oh, I'm sorry.
This one will go quick. So I just thought it'd be helpful to talk about next steps.
Oh, sure.
What's next? So we just completed what we'll call schematic design. So this identifies a high-level vision of what the park and the streetscape could look like. So next, we would recommend that you guys start to identify funding and phasing. So understanding how much you're wanting to invest in what areas of the park or streetscape you're wanting to move forward with. From there, we can develop design development drawings, which are just a more detailed look at materials and planting and irrigation and things like that, and really start to narrow in on what this project looks like. Then it goes into construction documents, which creates the drawings at which we would give to a contractor to bid and construct. Then there's a regulatory permitting process, and that can take some time. And so we just wanted to, lay out there that we're accustomed to working through that and familiar with the processes, but acknowledge that it does take some time before you can actually start construction. So this whole timeline that I've outlined here, start to finish, can take generally 2 years. So just kind of wanted to prepare everybody that, it takes a long time, I know, but I'm confident that you'll be really happy with what moves forward, just because you spent the time investing in establishing a solid vision from the start.
Is that 2 years for completion or 2 years for starting?
assuming, we get started tomorrow, to finish construction, you could expect generally that amount of time. A lot of variables in there, but. All right, and that concludes our presentation. So if you guys have any other questions, welcome them.
No? Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate y'all's time and attention tonight.
Thanks for being here. Chair, if you'll adjourn your meeting.
Motion to adjourn at 5:45.
All right, the SEDC joint session with council is adjourned, and we are now entering into a workshop budget session with city council, which is agenda item 4 at 5:45. I thank you all very much for being here. Agenda item 5, workshop session, city council, 5.1. Hear presentation and report of the certified appraisal roll from Harris County Appraisal District, HCAD, for the calculation of the 2025 no new revenue rate and the voter approval rate. Did we even get it?
Mayor and council, I did pre-alert you that we do not have the Harris County rolls in, so all of the next few items will need to be postponed, and we'll discuss future meeting dates.
Okay. Let's see, so we're into new business then in this review and discuss. We can't do that. So item 6, new business, item 6.1 will have to be tabled. Is that correct?
Yes, actually, you go straight to adjournment if you'd like.
6.2, 6.3, 6.4 will have to be adjourned, and will have to be tabled, and we're on item 7, adjourn workshop session. At this time, our regular city, that's at 5:47. At this time, our regular city council meeting is scheduled to start at 6 p.m., and we can't start before then, so we're going to take about a 10-minute break. Thank you all.